Thank you to Pierre-Yves and his team and the organization for having here the possibility to show a bit what the European Commission is doing on this very important topic, naturally, open source and responsible AI, and how concretely the Commission is working in order to change the life of the European citizens. So this is what I want to tell you about today. I'm Artur QUEIROZ. I come from the Department of IT of the Commission, so the digital services. And we have a very important role in the Commission in order to build our AI systems that can be responsible and also using open source. But typically when we bring this sort of presentations outside of, I would call a bit the European institutions bubble, it's good to understand where we come from. So what I wanted to show you a bit is the history that brought us to the place where we are today. So for you, maybe there is no surprise, or you know a bit what the European Union is. I don't know if you know so well the history. This was the European Union. It's not a traditional organization per se. It's a set of, let's say, of institutions, of bodies that compose the European Union as a whole. And it was born a bit in the late 50s after the Second World War with the objective of coordinating the production of steel and coal, two very important raw materials, naturally, for the production of the war machinery that happened in the 40s. So there was an effort to coordinate that. And then, naturally, this grew to the composition that you know today with successful integration of new countries, now 27 countries represented 450 million people. So quite sizable organization. And where we have the benefit of enjoying let's say, the rights and the privileges that we have conquered throughout the last 60 plus years. So you know probably about the European single market for the facilitation of trade, goods and services freely around Europe. You've heard about the Schengen space, perhaps, so that you can cross borders without having to show your passport. Maybe you've heard about the Eurozone as well. So we have the single currency for the majority of the countries that represent the EU. So very important, let's say, achievements. You can vote for the representatives in the European Parliament that represent the member state nations which are part of the European institutions. So really important achievements. But perhaps one of the things that is most iconic is the language. So we have 24 official languages. We have an institution where if you are a citizen and you want to ask a question, you can have access to the information that you want in one of the 24 languages. Naturally, have all the legislation translated, and as we say, translation is actually the language of Europe. So it's really important for us, and one of our identity main points is the fact that we are living in this multicultural, multilingual environment. And naturally, the core values that we defend and that are part of all the things that we're doing in terms of policy and in terms of initiatives that the European Commission and the European institutions in general are driving. And I spoke about European Commission, but you probably have heard in the European jargon about so many institutions that are part of this ecosystem which is supporting, basically, is supporting Europe. I'm working concretely in the European Commission, but what is the European Commission? What is it doing differently from the other institutions? So the European Commission, as typically says, the executive arm of the European Union. So we propose new legislation. We manage and implement the European budget with initiatives that in many domains, I'm going to cover a few of them throughout my presentation, and basically we deal with the daily operations of the Commission, of the European Union. In what domains? Maybe you have heard about some of these initiatives, about Erasmus, the very popular one, naturally to allow students to study abroad. You have heard for those that still remember 10 years ago, whenever you were traveling from one country to the other, you were paying significant fees in terms of roaming. So in the last 10 years, this basically has been suppressed with the initiatives towards ensuring free roaming, passenger rights, another important initiative, and making the bridge to the topic that I have today, the technology areas. Naturally, maybe you've heard about the USB-C standard being adopted for all sort of electronic devices. So this is coming in 2026. It's very important for standardization, optimization of logistical chains, waste management, an important one, and for the practical usage of our devices. So one important initiative. You have heard about the CHIPS Act. We're speaking about digital sovereignty and our ability to produce technology. So the CHIPS Act is going to basically try to accelerate the production of chips in Europe. And very important, the AI Act. So AI Act, the first piece of legislation regulating in Europe the usage of AI with the risk-based approach framework, which is very much behind the topic of using responsible AI. And let's see now how the Commission is using AI in concrete terms. So, as I said, I'm coming from Digit, so we build IT services for the Commission, but we also support the other, what we call EU IBA, so European Union institutions, bodies and agencies, with some of our services. Our Directorate General, or our department, covers many topics among the IT spectrum. As you can imagine, it's a relatively large institution, okay, 30,000 people, plus the other UIBAs, as I mentioned. It's a population that goes almost to 100,000. Yeah, in terms of artificial intelligence, I can say that the biggest stepping stone was performed last year, in the beginning of 2024, where we issued the first, let's say, our strategic vision for AI in the Commission. So in this communication, we had 3 objectives in mind. So we wanted, naturally, to accelerate the uptake of AI in the Commission, imbued naturally in the spirit of the lawful safeness and trustworthiness that we should abide to. We wanted to make sure that we are leading by example, because typically the Commission is seen as one of the, in terms of public administration, naturally, because things take a bit longer to reach public administration, but we are still seen as one of the front runners, and many other institutions and national administrations also follow our steps. And prepare ourselves for the AI Act, because, okay, not in my department, another department, we were developing the AI Act, so we need to make sure that we abide by what we are putting out there. So very important aspects to take into consideration. We created an initiative we baptized as AI at EC, okay, the name is a bit self-explanatory, but just to let you know that AI is so much more than technology. Naturally, okay, without technology you don't really have AI, but in order to roll it out, to ensure that people are using it, you need to cover so many areas. So we have to build like a all-round framework with many subject matters to cover, which go through the people, the governance, the let's say the guidelines, the practical uses for the staff, all the part about risk management, etc., that we would need to take into account in order to make sure that this was a success. So we had built what we call like an inter-service group for AI, representatives of the different departments that were managing this initiative, setting basically the pace for all the individual departments that wanted to take AI, taking care about aspects linked to change management and communication, things related to AI literacy, because this is really important actually then, because the usage of AI is going to be done by the people. And as we know, in particular with generative AI, it's extremely important that people use it responsibly and they know how to use it. So a lot of focus there, a lot of focus in guidelines as well. So, because different departments, in order to have AI functioning, you need to take care, for example, for procurement of AI systems. This is important because it's not the same way that we were doing procurement in the past, because now what if our contractors are using AI? How do we manage that? How do we know that they are even using AI? What about our software development community if they want to use AI? What about risk management, etc.? And also a lot of focus for open source, because you'll see this is very important to us in the Commission. We have, okay, just a side remark, one of the biggest footprints, at least for those who know, in the Drupal community for the web part. All the websites that we have in the Commission are open source, and we have one of the largest, one of the biggest platforms in the world with our Europa offering. So open source is important to us. But now, very interesting, and at least for most of you that would be here that have a technological background or are interested in technology, is what we have done concretely at the technical and operational level. And we have built our, let's say, flagship product or software. It's now in pilot mode. It's called GPT@EC. A catchy name, but it was very much, let's say, influenced by the mainstream usage of the ChatGPT that gained traction last year. But what we wanted was basically that we wanted that the staff of the Commission would rely on a tool developed by us in order to have their daily interactions with generative AI. Why so? Because we didn't want to take the risk that sensitive conversation, confidential documents would be released out there and they would be put in ChatGPT or other third-party Gen AI. Of course, that we cannot really totally prevent that people use them. So what we try to do is to provide alternatives and try to educate people in order to go in this direction. Now I have a small video so that you can have a bit of an idea of what we have built and what the Commission staff is using internally for their generative AI, let's say, tasks. Oh, here. So this basically, okay, it's an internal system for the Commission. There's the link, but it's the type of material that we're using internally to promote the usage of GPT@EC among the Commission population. And it's basically the glue at the moment in terms of AI, what we want our Commission officials to use when they want to use generative AI to support them on their daily tasks. And we took, and I will spend a bit of time here to explain, a lot of effort making sure that this would work in a way that was perceived as safe and trustable to our staff. So naturally we have the features that most of the Gen AI systems have. Okay, we have the chat, we have the history, we have a prompt library, which is very interesting because the different services of the Commission are contributing with their own prompts for particular policy areas that we are putting in GPT@EC. We have recently given access as well, it's there via API to the tool, so that you use not only the interface, but you can use it programmatically in your own applications. And we wanted to do this to avoid that every Commission department would use their own, so that they use the one that we are providing and they link to the GPT-RTC instead of their specific accounts. And we, in terms of RAG, so a retrieval augmented generation, to provide context, we have already attachments allowed, and we are working, this comes on the next slide, on providing as well link to knowledge bases and other databases as sources of information. We support large language models which are European and non-European, so we support several. We have a partnership with another department, the JRC, maybe you've heard about it, which is like our research arm. So they work with Digit, they check the models, they see if they abide by European values, they do all the verifications, and then if they're good, we put them on GPT-RTC. But perhaps the most interesting thing is what comes here about, let's say, using these responsibly. So sensitive levels, this is rather unique. You will not see this in other GenAI tools. So we have an information classification in the Commission, which classifies the level of the conversations that you're going to have. A public conversation, a Commission-using conversation, or a sensitive non-classified conversation. And depending on the type of conversation that you're going to have, different models will apply. So for example, if you want to have a sensitive non-classified conversation, you can only use the models which are deployed in the data centers of the Commission. We have a hybrid architecture. We use both cloud and the data center to have our models deployed and running. And then in terms of compliance and safety, we really did our homework in terms of data protection impact assessment and building our data protection record, the terms of usage and retention period of information that we are storing. We don't use the data from the models to train or retrain anything. We did our cybersecurity impact assessment, compliance with the AI Act. So all the terminology that you can think about regarding compliance and safety, we have done it in order to ensure the proper level of, let's say, people trust, and we use responsibly AI. And of course, on top of this, really training the people, teaching them to use the tool in a proper way, because at the end, let's say it's the users who are going to get their hands on the tool and using it properly. In terms of roadmap, this is also interesting. So this started October 2024. We have more than half of the Commission already using it, and we have been developing features. And for next year, actually, it's interesting. We want to build what we call the IITC platform, which is going to bring agentic AI and virtual assistants as well. So this is rather interesting. And we are developing that with open source. So basically, we want to build a factory, but in order to build that factory, we are relying on an infrastructure actually from a French provider, so that you know that, relying on a stack, and we are going to build our IITC platform like that. We will, to the extent possible as well, for the other parts of the code, try to make them open source. So we have an initiative for the old GPT-RTC and the platform for the agentic AI, taking the steps in order to see what is the license model that we can use, which part of the codes can be made open source, so they can be then available to the community in general. So this is work that's going to be happening in 2025, 2026, and 2027. But in terms of added value, what use cases? Because you have seen this here, but how is the Commission really using this sort of information? So as you know, we deal a lot of textual information, a lot of documents in multiple languages. So everything that relates to document analysis, summarizing information, you know that we have a huge corpus of data, not only the legal, public legal information regulations which are published in our Europa websites, but internally, for example, in terms of translation, we have a department only dedicated for that, where we have very high quality data that can be used for the purpose of enriching, for example, via RAG, our models in order to have very good results. Briefings, we do a lot of briefings, so all of these in the end is going to simplify our work and augment our productivity. So this is a way that indirectly you as citizens are going to impact you, because we are going to be more efficient. But perhaps more tangible in terms of how we use AI, and that you're going to be able to see, is some of the projects that I was just going to quickly highlight. One of them is called e-surveillance safety gate, and this is very interesting. So I guess all of you have done a lot of online shopping. You use the e-commerce platforms for that. But sometimes you question yourselves, okay, but how are these products landing here? Are they safe? Can I use them? So this platform, basically what it does, we have partnerships with the major e-commerce platform providers. We crawl all the information that they have there, okay, of course with their authorization, and then we use AI to understand if the products that are being sold online are compliant with the safety rules which are in force in Europe. And with that, market surveillance authorities can then, if they detect a product that, for example, is using forbidden substances and it shouldn't, they can act and remove and notify the e-commerce platforms and remove this platform and remove the products. So this is very important because, yeah, indirectly it actually directly is impacting and making sure that we use these e-commerce platforms in a way that we can trust them. So this is quite important. Another example, and this one is coming live at the end of the year, is PAX REST. It's a strange acronym for the platform that is managing passenger rights. So how many times, okay, there is a delay in your flight, and you are wondering, okay, how much am I entitled to? And you're navigating, you're the redirector to chatbots, and you want to do complaints, and it's like a spider web, and you cannot go out of it. And you ask yourself if these companies are liable, and what they are doing is really according to the laws. So what we are doing here with this PAX REST is using AI to digest all the European regulation in the domain, comparing it with the terms of usage and all the information that is put online by these traveling agencies and by these companies, air companies, etc. And then we verify if they are, to which extent they are compliant or not with the rules and regulations, so that then the respective authorities can act and take steps towards fixing the situation, and so that you are also informed about the level of compliance that different, for example, air companies have regarding European regulation. And this is actually my last slide, because then we'll have a bit of time for Q&A in case you are curious about it. So I hope that throughout these last 20 minutes you had the opportunity to see in which way the Commission is practically, both internally, indirectly, and with concrete actions, trying to change the life of European citizens by having improved public services, naturally, better quality ones, using AI, services that in the past were not possible to be done because they were just technically not feasible. Particularly in the part of policy and regulation, ensuring that the players in the market are playing by the rules, as we have seen. This, by having more technology, naturally translates in the creation of different and more advanced jobs. So this is also an important thing to modernize the type of jobs and the workforce as we go through. Naturally, bringing technology and the modernization of the European public service, which indirectly and directly affects all our lives, driving for efficiency so that we have less bureaucratic landscape, and as well dealing with areas such as accessibility. So this is again the example of Drupal. We are using so much of this technology to make more accessible websites, to automatically translate content and make it more easy to reach to the European citizens, so that they understand exactly what the Commission is doing and how it's trying to use AI in a responsible way. So with this, I'm finishing. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope that this has been enlightening for you. Thank you.